Welcome to Breakfast with Naga Marchetti and Dan Walker.
Good morning. Our headlines today. Rescue workers are searching for survivors after the earthquake in Lombok, which killed nearly 100 people. The Foreign Office says it's working to help British travellers.
The Labour Party drops an investigation into senior backbencher Margaret Hodge over anti-Semitism, that row with the leader Jeremy Corbyn.
Scientists warn that the world is at risk of extremely dangerous levels of climate change, which could mean parts of the world are uninhabitable within decades.
Good morning. How important is your local pub? Well, 18 close every single week across the country. And so here in Derbyshire, well, local people chipped in to buy theirs and run it themselves. I'll find out why a little later.
Gold in the pool again. Adam Peaty leads Great Britain to victory in the mixed 4x100 metre medley relay at the European Championships.
Good morning. It's cooler and cloudier across the north and the west of the country. Here we've got some patchy rain and drizzle. Hotter in the south and east, where we've got another day of warm sunshine. But it's all going to change tomorrow. I'll have more in 15 minutes.
It's Tuesday the 7th of August. Good morning. Our top story. Rescue workers on the Indonesian island of Lombok are carrying out a desperate search for survivors of the powerful earthquake which has killed almost 100 people.
The Foreign Office says it's heard from a number of UK holidaymakers trying to flee the devastation. Keith Doyle has this report.
On the island of Lombok, a man is pulled out of a collapsed mosque as the search for survivors continues. On the Gili Islands, thousands of tourists wait for boats to take them to safety. The earthquake, which struck on Sunday, has caused widespread destruction and left many dead and injured. This was the moment it struck, measuring 6.9, which was strong enough to destroy 20,000 homes on the north of the island of Lombok.
It was utterly terrifying. We just literally were sleeping off a bit of jet lag when the whole room, the ceiling collapsed, the floor cracked beneath us, the shower room, the glass smashed on the floor, tiles were falling off. We hid under a table within the room and just held on for dear life.
This was the second earthquake to hit the area in just over a week. It was 5 times more powerful and was followed by over 100 strong aftershocks. Power and communication lines have been cut to many parts of North Lombok, where the authorities say as many as 80% of the buildings have been damaged. Witnesses spoke of chaos and reported looting. Makeshift hospitals have been set up to treat the injured. At Lombok's main airport, tourists waited for flights to take them home. Paradise holidays cut short. Extra flights have been put on. The British Foreign Office has advised against travelling to the affected area and said it is providing assistance to British nationals who've been in contact via telephone or social media. Keith Doyle, BBC News.
The Labour Party has dropped an investigation into MP Dame Margaret Hodge over an anti-Semitism row with the party's leader, Jeremy Corbyn.
That disciplinary action came after she allegedly shouted at Mr Corbyn over his handling of Labour's dispute with Jewish community leaders. Let's get more on this from our political correspondent Ben Wright, who joins us now from Westminster. Morning to you, Ben. It doesn't feel like the end of the argument.
No, morning, Dan. This isn't tied up by any means. This all goes back to a row, as you said, that Margaret Hodge had with Jeremy Corbyn in the House of Commons last month, because she was very angry that, in her view, the Labour Party's new code of conduct on anti-Semitism did not go far enough, and she is said to have called Jeremy Corbyn an anti-Semite and a racist. Disciplinary action was then taken against her. That was dropped last night. Margaret Hodge received a letter from the Labour Party's General Secretary, and there was a series of tweets from Margaret Hodge in response. She said, "I'm pleased the Labour Party has finally dropped their action against me. After 55 years of Labour Party membership, going after me instead of addressing the issue was wrong." And then she followed it up with another tweet which said, "Just to be clear, there have been no apologies on either side." And she said that because last night Labour Party sources told journalists that Margaret Hodge had expressed regret to Labour's chief whip in the House of Commons. But that's an interpretation that Margaret Hodge vehemently denies, and her lawyers then released a letter that she posted on Facebook which said that the letter said that she did not express regret in those words or any other words. And her lawyers said that Labour was only doing this to save face and explain their reversal. So this row continues certainly. At the same time, Boris Johnson, I think, remains under some pressure to explain comments that he put in the Daily Telegraph yesterday. He wrote a piece in which he said that there should be no ban on the full veil, but made comments which I think Muslim groups in particular found very disturbing. He suggested that Muslim women wearing burqas looked like letterboxes and bank robbers, and I think a number of Labour MPs certainly felt this was very Islamophobic language that should not be used.
Ben, thank you very much for that. So both the major parties in this country under some degree of scrutiny at the moment.
Scientists are warning that the world is at risk of tipping into extremely dangerous levels of climate change, known as a hothouse state.
It could mean parts of the world are uninhabitable within decades, and any efforts to reduce emissions would become futile. David Shukman, our science editor, has the details.
An image of apocalypse, of the kind you might expect Hollywood to conjure up. But this was filmed on a real front line in California over the weekend. Record temperatures and bone-dry conditions are triggering dozens of wildfires in several American states. There are similar scenes in Europe, in Portugal. Fires are a constant risk here, but the speed of their spread has been shocking. At the same time, there's punishing heat in Asia. North Korea, usually so secretive, allowed its shimmering streets to be filmed. The heatwave has been declared a natural disaster. A new report warns that we're still pumping out the gases that warm the atmosphere and that the Earth may suddenly become much hotter. Because natural features of the planet, like the rainforests, are under pressure, and they help to keep us cool.
So if it were correct, and if this was to take place, it would be very serious, because there would be all sorts of impacts that would affect people in many ways. For example, some places would be very short of water, other places in deltas and places would be flooded.
And in Japan, there's another challenge. More than 100 people have died in the heat, but this is where the Olympic Games will be held in 2020. So they might shift the clocks by 2 hours, so races can be in cooler conditions. A radical move as temperatures are set to rise. David Shukman, BBC News.
Meanwhile, 2 wildfires that merged into one blaze in Northern California has swiftly become the largest fire in the state's recorded history. It's now burned through 284,000 acres. That's almost the size of Los Angeles. It's still growing. The blaze has burned through 75 homes and forced thousands of people to flee the area. 2 people have died.
President Trump's sanctions against Iran have come into effect this morning. They were lifted by Barack Obama in 2015 in return for Tehran agreeing that they wouldn't develop nuclear weapons. Well, the Iranian government has condemned the move as psychological warfare. They will target Iran's purchase of US dollars, the trade in precious metals and the car industry there as well.
Donald Trump's former campaign deputy, Rick Gates, has admitted in court that he did help his former boss, Paul Manafort, file false tax returns and hide foreign bank accounts. Mr Gates is appearing as a government witness against Mr Manafort, who's accused of fraud. He also admitted embezzling hundreds of thousands of dollars from Mr Manafort.
Tens of thousands of pupils in Scotland will receive their exam results today.
Good luck. Be calm. The grades will be sent via email and text from 8 o'clock. Now, Katrina Renton is in Cumbernauld for us this morning. Oh, Katrina, it just makes... I get that flip in my stomach. I really do when I think about that day, getting those exam results. It must make you think back as well. How's everyone feeling there?
Well, exactly that. That's exactly what we've all been talking about this morning, is that this is obviously the worst feeling that you probably have in most of your life. So we're here at Green Falls High School in Cumbernauld, and I have got Fraser and Alison with me. Fraser is waiting for his higher results. Of course, they're important because they are the university entrance qualification, largely here in Scotland. So Fraser, tell me, how is it feeling?
Nerves and excitement. It's been a long time coming, so I'm really eager to get my results, yeah.
Now, you've done loads of hires. How many have you done, and what subjects are they in, and what do you want to do?
I've done 5 hires in chemistry, physics, maths, English and modern studies, and I'm really hoping to study medicine at Glasgow University.
So no pressure that you've put yourself under then, Fraser. Need some good results there, but we're keeping our fingers crossed for you at 8 o'clock. Now, Mum, it must be as nerve-wracking for you. I remember my mum and dad.
It is, very much so, yes. Nervous and excited all at once.
But you're proud of him,
very proud, very
whatever
proud.
happens. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? That even what the advice coming back from the government and everyone this morning is that there are alternatives if it doesn't go to plan. But hopefully for you, it will do. So we've got our watches on. We're counting it down. It was, you know, it is a long time coming since you finished the exams.
Yeah, it's been since May. I finished in May, so yeah, it's been quite a while. I've had to wait for this.
Right, good luck, Fraser. We hope. Keep our fingers crossed for Fraser when the results come in, and all his classmates here behind us who are also waiting for their results.
Good luck to them all. Horrible moment. Horrible moment. Thanks, Katrina.
Feeling the stress. I can feel a little bit of the stress. I hope you have a good day.
Yes.
Whatever you're getting today.
Time now, 13 minutes past 7. The Novichok nerve agent attack investigations continue. There are calls for an inquiry. They come from Elena Selina, who is the lawyer for Marina Litvinenko, the wife of the murdered former Russian spy Alexander Litvinenko.
Some reports also suggest a request is about to be made by the British government for extradition of 2 suspects they believe are responsible for the poisoning. Officials have not confirmed this. But Elena Selina joins us now. We can get a bit more detail on this. Thank you very much for coming on the programme this morning. So you are calling on the government here in the UK to hold a public inquiry into what we saw take place in Salisbury. Can you first of all explain exactly why you're making that call?
Good morning. We're making this call for the simple reason because we anticipate that the Russian Federation will say that any extradition request that will be made by the British authorities against suspects that it has identified in the poisoning of the Skripal and the murder of Don Sturgis is politically motivated and groundless. Therefore, the Russian Federation is very unlikely to extradite the suspects to be tried in the UK. Therefore, the public inquiry is the only tool that we, the UK, have in order to be able to hear the police evidence, to hear the forensic evidence that has been collected over the last 5 months, and to hear from interested parties before an independent inquiry.
What difference did it make when you called for and you had the public inquiry into the Litvinenko case?
It took years for Marina and for her son to get justice in the UK. The public inquiry was finally called in July 2014 and was then convened in January 2015. And it gave an opportunity for evidence to be heard in an open court, and for an independent judge to be able to hear that evidence and to come to a conclusion. The findings of the public inquiry were finally published in January 2016.
You mentioned, we talked about those extradition requests, which have been reported in a number of the papers this morning. It's on the front page of The Guardian. We've checked in. Currently, the police, CPS and the Home Office have not confirmed whether that is in fact the plan. But from what you're suggesting, you seem to believe that if that was to be the case and those requests were made for those extradition requests for those connected with the Salisbury attack, that Russia would just simply turn those down.
It's very likely that the Russian Federation will invoke Article 61 of the Russian Constitution and say that the Russian nationals will not be extradited to any foreign country. However, I have to say that it's not entirely unprecedented for the Russian Federation to extradite its nationals to a foreign country. This happened in 2002 when the Russian Federation extradited Murad Garabayev to Turkmenistan. So the Russian Federation does extradite its nationals where it is politically advantageous.
Do you see parallels between the case that you previously worked on, the Litvinenko case, and the Salisbury one?
I'm not very keen to draw parallels, but I think that the Skripal poisoning and the murder of Don Sturgis is a test for the British government to see what lessons it has learned from the Litvinenko case.
And are you concerned that what we'll see basically is just a continuation of a war of words between Russia and the UK government, and essentially, unless there is a public inquiry, we might never get to the bottom of what happened in Salisbury?
I'm very concerned that that will be the case, because unless the British government does call for a public inquiry, this case will eventually dissipate and go underground.
Elena Selina, very good to talk to you this morning. Thank you very much
Thank you very much.
for that, and I'm sure that's the case we will continue to follow on Breakfast and across BBC News as well the next few days and weeks and months ahead.
Indeed. It's 17 minutes past 7, so there's rain about. We'll find that out with Jane. She's a bit sodden. But for many of us, we're going to enjoy some sunshine for the moment, at least. Wow, that's a great view, Carol.
Isn't it? It's over London, Naga. Good morning, both. You're quite right. You know, if you want substantial rain, this weekend some of us will see some substantial rain, and this weekend is going to be noticeably windy as well, and it will feel much cooler than it has done. Today, for some of us in the north and west, it's also going to feel cool. We're on the post side of the weather front, on the frontal side of the weather front, for want of a better word. It's still going to be hot and it's going to be sunny. This is what I mean by the frontal side. Ahead of it, we're looking at a lot of sunshine, temperatures up to 33 in the southeastern corner, but cooler and fresher behind it. And along the weather front, for parts of Fife, the southern uplands, northwest England, Wales, southwest England, where Jane is, this is where we've got the cloud and some patchy light rain and drizzle. But as it bumps into the high pressure further south, it will weaken and we'll just see some cloud. Now today there will be sunny spells, even where we've got a cloudy start. Temperatures in the north in the mid to the high teens. In the south, though, we are looking at up to about 32, maybe